Let me just start by saying, me, as everybody knows, I don't like Pep. I don't like Man City. But this isn't about my bias or anything. So a few weeks ago, during one of his pre-match interviews, Pep was asked about Man City's net spend.
Now, I'm a little bit sad and upset because in net spend the last 5 years, we are the 7 in the Premier League. So I want to be the first. I don't understand how the club don't spend more money. So I'm a little bit grumpy with them. But with that position like we won in the past, because we spend a lot, now 6 teams have to win the Premier League. And the Champions League is the FA Cups because they spend more in the last 5 years. This is a fact, It's not, I would say, an opinion, You can say an opinion, for example, like you say, you play good or play bad against the Spurs. So we can be agree or disagree. And but that is facts. So good luck for the 6 teams who are in front of us to spend net in the last 5 years. Let's go. I'm waiting.
So Pep, as usual, being sarcastic, basically saying that everybody they talk say then they win plenty because of how much then they spend. So now that's their number 7 in net spend, make everybody to go win some. But here's the thing. I feel like this entire net spend conversation, the fans, the clubs, the coaches, whoever, they've lost sight of why net spend even became a thing in the first place. Because net spend is not just something that we just talk about in isolation. There's a particular reason why net spend became a talking point. And net spend, it was mainly in relation to maybe a team losing a player and having to replace them. It's in relation to like maybe the balance between the players you lose and the balance between the players you sign. I think the best example to use is Liverpool and Coutinho. So Liverpool sell Coutinho for what? 140 million, 150 million, 160 million. And with that money, they used to sign Van Dijk, they used to sign Alisson. So the whole idea is that we lost a very important part of our team, and then we used the money to sign other players to fill other parts. That's how the whole net spend thing came about. And also, obviously, just to prove that your club is being run in a sustainable way and everything. But one key element of the whole net spend conversation is that, okay, if I lost this player for this amount, I had to use the money to go out and go and buy other players to fill whatever gap that player left. So that's where the whole conversation from way back, that's where the whole conversation came from. Now, that's very different from what Man City and certain other teams are doing. I won't mention the other teams, but it's very different from what Man City and the rest are doing.
If you give him
I'm not gonna mention. Right now, my main focus is on Man City, so I don't want to throw punches in other directions. Man City my big focus, but like I'm saying, what I've just explained is very different from what Man City have been doing, because Man City, first of all, everything that they are right now is because of the fraudulent things they did in the past. So for me, I hate it when people try to put aside what they did in the past because now they are doing things the right way.
They select the starting year.
Exactly, like 5 years ago. So now there we are in the clear. Like for me, if you are looking at Man City, you cannot isolate them from the reason why they are facing 115 charges right now, because everything Man City are right now is because they managed to prop themselves up so much in the past that now they are able to stand on their own. But they're standing on your own is because of something where right now if you stand on your own. It make like, say, maybe a sprinter who started his career using performance-enhancing drugs for years. He was using performance-enhancing drugs, and they never caught him. And then at some point, even though they no catch him, he say, okay, right now, I will start the run clean. I'm not going to use the drugs again. But the thing is that even when you stop using the drugs, but the thing is, right now, even when you stop using the drugs, you are still going to benefit from the past usage. All the scientists and code will tell you that even when people stop using the drugs, you still benefit physically to some extent, which is why the ban for performance enhancing drugs is usually very long, maybe 4 years, 5 years or something, because the whole idea is that you are still benefiting whether they caught you this month, this year, and now they give you a 1-year ban. It's not going to make a huge difference. So just because Man City, they were able to prop themselves up, stop doing whatever it is that they did to prop themselves up, and now they are operating clean. That one, we don't even have full evidence that they are operating clean. So now I make like, okay, now we can put aside what they did way back, and now we just look at what they're doing now. For me, it doesn't make sense because, first of all, one of the reasons why Man City are even able to attract this type of players that they attract right now is because they pumped so much money in through shady sponsorship deals. Their owners were paying them money through their own companies. They were paying managers, for example, Mancini. One of the 115 charges is that they paid Mancini through a shell company just to top up his salary. So let's say the wages Mancini is asking for is maybe 10 million a year. Your books say you can only pay him 6 million a year. So through one of your shell companies, you pay him 4 million to balance it out. All of these things led directly to success that you were able to acquire. That success led you to be able to attract more players. So it's all linked to each other. So you can't say that, okay, now Mancini, he left 11 years ago, so now it not really counts like that. Everything they did is linked to what they are now. So even, let's say, them being able to sign a Haaland, for example, it's because of the status they've acquired through the shady deals they did in the past. So you can't just isolate anything when it comes to Man City. You have to analyze everything in totality. So my whole point about Man City is that, like, when Pep says this thing about their net spend, they are now at the bottom. Like, even right now, whether you are seventh or whatever it is, you have players who you wouldn't have been able to sign if you didn't benefit from the shady deals that I've already highlighted.
You've even gone too far.
And
you have managers you couldn't have signed without
managers you couldn't have signed, which is a very important factor.
Without these shady deals.
Exactly.
That's the underlying thing. Pep would not exist.
That's exactly. The whole Pep era wouldn't have happened if you hadn't done all these shady deals. And then on top of everything too, this is their net spend. When I talk about how Liverpool, for example, is all about using the Coutinho money and spreading it across and all of that, Man City don't. It's not necessarily like that, because when was the last time you saw Man City losing a player they actually wanted to keep? How many times do you see Man City losing a player they want to keep? Most of their net spend money is them selling players who they farmed in their academy for the purposes of selling the person for profit. Like, that's one of the things that they were able to do out of their shady deals, because they were able to build up their academy, sign the best talents from all across England and across the world, just so that they can farm them and sell them. Because honestly, it's only recently that Man City started integrating academy players into their team on a much larger scale. For Pep's first 6 or 7 years, who was the academy player who had made more than maybe 15, 20 appearances for the first team? Foden. Who else? It just be recently when they start integrating them, O'Reilly and that other guy with the afro. Nobody know in profile, whether it be right back, left back, midfielder.
Oscar
Here's that
Bob.
type. Never Oscar Bob. The one they play right back, they play left back, they play.
O'Reilly.
Not be O'Reilly. There's
Lewis.
another one. Nico Williams.
Rico Lewis.
He's sharp for Rico Lewis. He's sharp fucking.
Wait.
Is it Nico Williams?
How many games Palmer play?
Palmer played like 10 games.
Yeah, he was more like, they use him more as an impact sub. And even I was even coming to that. I was even coming to that. So, for example, like if say you have maybe a particular window. I'm not saying they signed all these people in the same window, but let's say you have a window where you sign Haaland, you sign Rodri, you sign Ruben Diaz, and then in that same window you sell James Trafford for, is it 25 million? You sell Cole Palmer for 40, 45 million. You sell Lavia for 25, 30 million. Now, on your books, it looks like, yeah, you sold players that you have to replace and you use that money to sign new players. You sign Haaland. But all of these players are not players that you were ever going to use. All of them were mainly raised through your academy for the main purpose of selling them. And then you sign players that most teams will not even be able to sign. Because that's another problem with looking at things just from the net spend perspective. Because, for example, you look at, and it's not even just about net spend for me, it's about transfer expenditure in general. Because one thing about the Premier League right now is that most teams can afford to spend maybe 70 million, 80 million on a player one time. Even maybe the bottom 5 teams, they can get up one day and say, I'm going to spend 80 million on this player. The main problem is paying the wages that come with buying a certain caliber of players. So let's say maybe Newcastle go and sign Walter Mada for is it 80 million?
Mm-hmm.
On the books, Man City signed Haaland for 60 million. Can you say that Newcastle could have used the Walter Mada money to go and sign Haaland? That'd be the flaw with just using transfer expenditure to say that, okay, this money, I could have used this money to sign this person, you could have used this money to sign, or we should all be judged the same because we all spent the same amount, or you spent more money on Guatemala than I used on Haaland. So it means your expectations will be higher than my expectations. That not be how it would work. Newcastle, the last window, they signed what? Ilanga for 60 million. They signed Guatemala for 80 million. They signed
Wissa
for, is it 50 million or something? But
40,
when you look at their
55 or something.
when you add all of the wages of all of these players, I don't think it even comes up to Haaland's wages. So that's the flaw with looking at things from just the transfer expenditure perspective. Because everybody go fee Premier League right now, almost everybody go fee afford anybody. Like almost in terms of transfer expenditure, one team just go decide say, okay, right now I go come out 80 million, I go come out 90 million, go blow am on this player. But the real determiner of whether you're a big team or whether you're aiming to compete at the highest level is the money you're willing to spend on those players. Because apart from wage bill being the biggest indicator instead of transfer expenditure, your wage ceiling is probably the biggest indicator of them all. Because Man City right now are probably spending 500k on Haaland. How many teams in world football right now can afford to pay one player 500k? Because in the end, like I'm saying, you can spend 70 million on one player as a one-off, but you can't pay one player 500k in your team as a one-off. Because the moment you raise your wage ceiling to that level, all your other players who think that, okay, I come close to this player, they are going to want their wages pegged at least close to that player. So if maybe Haaland is your best player, he's earning 500k. Your second best player is going to think that, okay, even if I'm not as good as Haaland, I'm not half as good as Haaland that I for take 250k. At the very least, you for pay me some 400k, 450k. That's just how it works. That's the main reason why Barca, people will say that, yeah, Messi was Barca's best player by a distance. But in the end, because Messi was being paid, is it 800k or 900k? Suarez was being paid 600k. Griezmann was being paid 600k. And that's all that dug them into the hole they were in. If Messi was earning 500k, they would probably have been able to pay all those other players 400k, 350k or whatever. But the moment you pay somebody a certain amount, everybody else is going to expect their wages to be pegged against that amount. So right now, as things stand, Man City have the biggest wage bill in the league, I think, by a stretch. And that is what you should judge them by. Not by net spend that then they sell academy players who most of them, you don't even hear of them. The time they sell James Trafford, I never even hear of him before. I don't think they even had any plans of ever using him. But somehow they sold him to Burnley for 25 million. Now the guy, he went to do what Burnley safe. He can't get another move to Newcastle where he would have been the outright starter. Then go sign him back. Right after they sign him back, then go sign Donnarumma, relegates the guy back to number 2. So, like, that's like the thing that pisses me off about Pep and his smugness and how he just thinks that like he the big brain past everybody. Like, judge them by their wages. Don't judge them by their net spend. That'd be my whole that's.
He top one team Pep this season, and that's it. It really touched me